Welcome to the deep dive. You know, when I first got hold of the sources for today, I was just, well, completely hooked from the first paragraph.
Oh, yeah. How was it?
It just paints this incredible scene. Imagine this. The stage lights go down, everyone's quiet, and you hear an Arcturan Macbeth.
Okay, dramatic.
But it's the voice. Someone recognizes it, like, instantly from this horrifying event in their past, a really, really terrifying past.
Ooh, okay. Like a ghost from the past kind of thing?
Exactly. And then, boom, the Starship Enterprise, Captain Kirk's ship, gets pulled 3 light years off its course.
Wow.
Ah.
Not for a spatial anomaly or a diplomatic mission.
No, nothing like that. It's diverted because of an accusation, a really shocking, deeply personal claim. And we're basically going to hear Captain Kirk himself wrestling with this truth that could change everything and a past that just won't stay buried.
And that, listeners, is exactly what we're diving into today. We're going deep into a really complex story, pulling directly from these amazing audio logs and historical files that, honestly, just lay bare the raw tension of it all.
It's intense.
It really is. This isn't just, your standard Starfleet procedural. It's a human drama. You've got a captain's personal history crashing right into his duty.
Yeah.
And it forces him, and us, really, to ask some big questions about identity, about justice, about the weight of history, Yeah. We're going to unpack this whole extraordinary Starfleet mystery, piece by piece.
Okay, so where does it kick off? It starts with a captain's log. Stardate 2817.6. Pretty standard stuff, usually.
Right.
But the Enterprise gets diverted, not for a first contact, not for a red alert, but because of a message from a Dr. Thomas Layton.
Okay, Dr. Layton. And what's his deal?
He claims with this absolute certainty that this famous actor, Anton Karidian, who's touring around, he says Karidian is actually Kodos the Executioner.
Whoa. Kodos. The guy's supposedly dead for 20 years. The Tarsus V governor.
The very same. So you can just picture Kirk hearing this as log entry. It's pure disbelief, like total exasperation. He basically says, you called me 3 light years off my course just to accuse an actor of being Kodos.
Yeah, I mean, on the surface, it sounds completely nuts. An actor.
Right. It's a wild claim to start with.
Oh, astonishing. Yeah. But you listen to Layton's voice in those logs, and his conviction is just chilling. He's absolutely certain. He talks about the official reports Kodos dying in a fire, and he just dismisses it. A body burned beyond recognition, he says, really hitting that lack of positive ID. It basically implies it was a cover-up, a way to close the books too quickly.
And he remembers, you can hear it in his voice, he remembers the massacre Kodos ordered.
Oh, yeah. 4,000 people were butchered. That's the quote. And his wife, Martha, she confirms it too, says he's been obsessed ever since Karidian's acting troupe showed up on their colony.
So this isn't just some random theory he cooked up. It's deep. It's trauma.
Exactly. It's eating him alive. It makes you think, doesn't it? How these old atrocities can just haunt people for decades, twist their whole reality.
And Kirk's stuck with this. How do you even file this report? Diverted ship because doctor thinks actor is long dead mass murderer?
Right. Logistically, it's a nightmare.
So Kirk tries to shut it down initially. He says something like, Kodos is dead. I am satisfied with that. Just wants it to go away.
But Layton won't let it go. He pushes back.
He does. He tells Kirk, look, there were only 8 or 9 of us who actually saw Kodos commit those atrocities. People who could truly identify him.
And here comes the kicker.
Yeah. He tells Kirk, you're one of them. Boom. Suddenly it's not just a Starfleet problem.
It's personal. Deeply personal for Kirk. You can almost feel that weight land on him.
Totally. So Layton and his wife, Martha, they cook up this plan. A cocktail party for the whole acting company.
A bit morbid, isn't it? Like setting a trap.
Totally morbid. They hope Kodos, if it is him, will slip up, reveal himself somehow.
Wow.
And Kirk, well, he's worried about his command, about digging up his own past. But he agrees. He agrees to look into it. He knows he's heading into murky territory, though. It's not just about justice anymore.
No, it's about confronting ghosts. His own ghosts. Which leads him inevitably to the Enterprise library computer.
Yeah.
He needs the facts.
Right. Time to dig into the official records.
Exactly. We're going deep into the historical files now, just like Kirk did, pulling up the profile for former Governor Kodos of Tarsus IV, also known as Kodos the Executioner.
Yeah.
And the details are pretty stark.
Stark is putting it mildly. The computer lays it all out. 20 years ago, Tarsus V, terrible food shortage. Some kind of exotic fungus wiped out their supplies.
A complete catastrophe for the colony.
And Kodos, the governor, declares martial law. But his solution, it wasn't just rationing. The records call it drastic measures based on his own theories of eugenics.
And eugenics on a starving colony. That's horrific.
He decided, coldly, that half the population had to die, 50%. Over 4,000 men, women, children, just executed.
To save the other half, according to his twisted logic, the brutality is hard to fathom.
And the records say the bodies were disposed of quickly. When Earth relief ships finally got there, well, they found Kodos' body, too.
Supposedly. Burned beyond recognition. No positive ID.
Convenient, again. Case closed, officially. But you can see why someone like Leighton wouldn't accept that. It feels unfinished, unjust.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you contrast this horrific historical record with the profile of Anton Karidian, the actor.
Right. Polar opposites, seemingly.
Totally. The computer shows Karidian as this respected figure. Director, star of this traveling theater company. They're part of the Galactic Cultural Exchange Project. Been touring official installations for 9 years.
Bringing Shakespeare to the spaceways.
Pretty much. And he travels with his daughter, Lenore. She's 19. Seems like a perfectly normal, even admirable artistic setup.
Seems normal.
Wow.
But, and this is the big but, isn't it?
This is the piece that changes everything. Kirk tries to run a comparison, right? Match Karidian's biometrics, voice print, whatever, against Kodos' records.
And what does the computer say?
It comes back with no identification records available on actor Antonian, and even more damning, no information available. Anton Karidian prior to 20 years ago.
20 years ago, exactly when Kodos vanished.
Precisely. The computer literally cannot compare them.
Yeah.
It only has their separate photos. There's just a pretty void, a 20-year blank slate where Karidian's past should be.
That's not just a coincidence. That's like a giant flashing neon sign saying something's wrong here.
Absolutely. It's too perfect, too clean. How does a man have no history for 2 decades? It screams fake identity. It forces you to think, how far would someone go to bury a past like Cody's?
So this missing history, this glaring gap, is probably what pushes Kirk to bring in Spock, right? He needs that logical perspective.
Exactly. He needs an objective take, especially on Leighton. Is Leighton credible or just obsessed? Kirk asks Spock straight up for an assessment of Dr. Leighton's character.
And Spock being Spock.
It's precise, clinical. He describes Leighton as a good empirical research scientist, steady, reputable, occasionally brilliant, and then adds the crucial line, with a very long memory.
Wow. That's not just saying he's sane, that's validating his core claim almost. Spock's basically saying, this man observes, remembers, and is generally right.
Pretty much. It lends huge weight to Leighton's accusation. It's the logical backing Kirk needed, perhaps, to justify going further.
And that settles it for Kirk, doesn't it? What does he do?
He makes his decision, delays the Enterprise's departure, beams back down to the planet. The skepticism is gone. Now it's conviction. He knows something dark is going on.
So he beams down, and who does he run into first?
He runs into Lenore Karidian, the daughter. It's almost like a scene playing out right there.
How so?
Well, she greets him very charmingly, but explains her father, Anton Karidian, has this rigid rule. He doesn't meet admirers personally, doesn't attend parties.
Which, for an actor...
is very unusual, as Kirk notes. Actors usually thrive on that stuff, right? Meeting the audience, the applause, as another little oddity about Karidian, adds to the mystique or the suspicion.
And this is where Kirk starts playing his own game, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This is where you see Kirk the strategist, Kirk the manipulator, maybe. He's definitely intrigued by Lenore. He tells her she was very impressive as Lady Macbeth.
Yeah.
Which, talk about irony, right? Guilt, ambition, murder.
Perfect choice.
And then he suggests they meet again. Casually drops in. Not necessarily professionally.
Smooth. Using the daughter to get closer to the father.
It seems like it. Lenore mentions their schedule, their next stop. But Kirk... he's already pulled some strings behind the scenes. He's arranged for their transport ship, the Astral Queen, to basically ditch them.
Seriously? He stranded them.
He did. So then he asks Lenore, all innocence, you don't have a schedule now, do you? It's brilliant in a ruthless kind of way.
Wow. That's pretty calculating for Kirk.
It is. He forces them into a situation where accepting passage on the Enterprise is their only option. And he smooths it over beautifully. Tells Lenore the crew's been out on patrol a long time. They could use a break, a performance. Says he's backed into a corner because the crew would never forgive me if he deprived them of seeing her act and her presence.
Masterful.
Yeah.
He makes it seem like he's doing them a favor while getting exactly what he wants, which raises that tricky question. How far can a captain bend the rules for what he thinks is right? Or for personal reasons?
It's a very gray area. And the immediate result is felt right on the bridge. Spock starts prepping to leave orbit, heading for the Benicia colony.
Which is way off their original course.
Exactly. Spock notes it's 8 light years off our course. And being Spock, he questions this sudden unexplained change. Protocol, efficiency, logic, it all says this is wrong.
And Kirk's response
Is sharp, dismissive. He basically tells Spock his memory needs refreshing and snaps, "Follow my orders."
Ouch! Pulling rank like that shows how deep Kirk is in this.
It really does. This isn't just bending the rules anymore. It feels like breaking them. His personal quest, this obsession almost, is overriding his duty as captain. The stakes just went way, way up.
And we get a glimpse inside Kirk's head, too, don't we? Through his log.
We do. Stardate 2818.9. He records this entry, and it's incredibly revealing. He says, "There are many questions in my mind, too many perhaps, about the actor Sidian and his daughter. Personal reasons, I'm almost afraid to learn the answer."
Afraid to learn the answer. Wow. That's heavy.
It is. It shows this isn't just about catching Kodos. It's about Kirk confronting his own trauma from Tarsus I, something he's clearly buried deep. What is he afraid of finding? Maybe something about himself. About what happened back then.
It adds this whole layer of psychological depth to his investigation. He's not just hunting a man, he's hunting his own past.
Exactly. And that past is becoming dangerously present right there on his ship. Back at the library computer, another search turns up something critical.
What's that?
The computer identifies the survivors of Tarsus I, confirming there were precisely 9 actual eyewitnesses who could identify Kodos by sight.
9 people who saw his face during the atrocity.
Right, and the list includes, as we know, Kirk J. and Leighton T., but then there's another name, Riley K.
Riley K, as in Lieutenant Kevin Riley from Communications.
The very same. The computer confirms. Star Service Lieutenant Kevin Riley is presently assigned USS Enterprise Communications Section.
Oh my God. So there's another eyewitness right there on the Enterprise. Unknowing. Vulnerable.
Precisely. Kirk realizes this immediately. And his reaction is instant, decisive, and well, weird.
What does he do?
He orders Riley transferred out of communications immediately. Sends him down to engineering.
Engineering. But didn't Riley just come up from engineering?
Exactly what Spock points out. Spock says Riley came up from engineering, and this sudden transfer with no explanation is bound to consider this transfer a disciplinary action. It makes no logical sense from Riley's perspective.
But Kirk doesn't care about logic right now.
Not at all. He just shuts Spock down again. Follow my orders. He's clearly trying to protect Riley, get him out of the line of fire maybe, but he's doing it in this clumsy, almost paranoid way.
Yeah, alienating his crew, acting erratically. It shows how much pressure he's under, how personal this has become.
And Spock, understandably, is concerned. There's that great scene where he talks to McCoy, trying to figure Kirk out.
The classic Spock-McCoy dynamic.
Totally. Spock finds Kirk's actions illogical. Bringing the actors aboard, transferring Riley for no reason. He's trying to compute it, and it's just not adding up.
And McCoy's take.
McCoy is pure gut feeling. He sort of shrugs off Spock's logic, suggests maybe Kirk simply might like the girl, meaning Lenore.
Huh. Classic McCoy. Humanize everything.
Right. And he adds, with that complete faith he has in Kirk, that Kirk generally knows what he's doing. It perfectly shows their different ways of understanding the situation. Spock needs data, McCoy trusts intuition, and Kirk's character.
While Spock and McCoy are debating Kirk's motives, someone else is using the library computer.
And this is where it gets really chilling. While Kirk is investigating Karidian, Lenore Karidian starts her own computer search.
What's she looking for?
She requests full personal DOSes on, get this list, Dr. Thomas Leighton, Anton Karidian, Lieutenant Kevin Riley, and Captain James T. Kirk.
Whoa! That's everyone connected to Kodos, including her own father, listed as Karidian.
Exactly. And she doesn't stop there. She specifically tells the computer, correlate, check their past histories, report any item, any past episode or experience they all have in common.
She's actively trying to connect the dots, so she's hunting for the link between them all.
Precisely. This completely changes things. Lenore isn't just some innocent bystander. She's investigating too. And given what we suspect about her father, her motives are probably far, far darker than Kirk's. She's not looking for justice.
No, she's probably looking to eliminate threats. This sets up a really dangerous collision course. It also makes you wonder, who's the hunter and who's the hunted here?
It blurs the lines, doesn't it? And as the computer crunches that data for Lenore, it spits out the horrific details of the Kodos massacre again.
Reminding us of the stakes.
Exactly. How Kodos seized power during that food crisis on Tarsus IV. How it wasn't just about survival, but about his twisted ideology.
His theories of eugenics.
All right, the computer states he began to separate the colonists. Some would live, be rationed whatever food was left. The remainder would be immediately put to death. Cold, calculated.
What kind of person does that? Implements it without mercy, as the source says.
It's monstrous. The source paints that picture. Children watching their parents die. Whole families destroyed. Over 4,000 people. They died. Just unimaginable cruelty.
And the relief ships got there too late. And Kodos' body was never properly ID'd. That lingering doubt is everything.
It's the seed of this whole crisis, that lack of closure, that potential lie at the heart of the official story. It allows the past to just erupt into the present.
And then the computer delivers the final, terrifying correlation, the smoking gun.
It connects Karidian's known history directly to Kodos' disappearance. It states Karidian's history begins almost to the day where Kodos disappeared.
Wow. Not even close, but almost to the day. That's deliberate.
It screens planned identity switch. And then the truly sinister part. The computer correlates the deaths of the other eyewitnesses. With the exception of Riley and Captain Kirk, every other eyewitness is dead.
All the others are gone.
And the computer draws the unavoidable conclusion. Wherever they were, the sitting company of players was somewhere near when they died.
Oh my God. So it wasn't random accidents or natural causes. It was a pattern.
A pattern of murder. A systematic elimination of anyone who could expose Karidian as Kodos. The acting troops tour wasn't just about culture. It was a cover for a killing spree.
That is horrifying. And the immediate threat is Lieutenant Riley.
Right. He's down in engineering, supposedly safe. But then, after he talks to Lenore over the comm system, his condition suddenly gets worse.
Lenore, she talked to him.
Seems so. And McCoy runs tests. He finds appreciable amount of tetrabenazole in Riley's system, a volatile lubricant used on the ship.
Poisoned.
McCoy leaves no doubt, he tells Kirk. Someone tried to poison him. He dismisses the idea of an accident. Tetralubisol is a milky substance. Someone could have gotten careless, made a mistake. I don't believe that. Neither do you.
So Riley was deliberately targeted. Right there on the Enterprise. The threat is absolutely real and immediate.
It confirms everything. The speculation is over. Kodos, or someone protecting him, is actively trying to kill the remaining witnesses. It's life or death now for Kirk and Riley.
And this attempted murder, the solid proof, it must lead to a major confrontation, right? Between Kirk, Spock, McCoy.
Oh, absolutely. Things get heated. Spock, sticking to the logic, lays it out for Kirk. Lieutenant Riley was a witness, so were you.
Point blank.
He doesn't explicitly say Karidian is Kodos, but the implication is undeniable. He says 2 + 2 = 4, almost. Most certainly an attempt will be made to kill you. He's warning Kirk directly.
And how does Kirk react? He must be reeling.
He is. He's torn apart. He admits to them, really honestly, I've done things I've never done before. I've placed my command in jeopardy. He's questioning his own motives.
The justice versus vengeance thing?
Exactly. He asks them, are you sure it's not vengeance? And then admits, no, I'm not sure. I wish I was. He desperately wants certainty before he asks, before he accuses Karidian formally.
Because the stakes are so high, ruining a man's life if he's wrong.
Or letting a mass murderer go free if he hesitates. He knows memory is tricky. Men change. Memory changes, he says. He needs more than just logic. He says, logic is not enough. I've got to feel my way, make absolutely sure.
It's such a human moment for Kirk. The weight of it all, the personal history, the command responsibility. It's immense.
It truly is. And just as this tension hits its peak, something else happens. A deliberate act of sabotage.
What's that?
A phaser is found somewhere on the ship, set to overload. It threatens to destroy an entire deck.
A diversion or another attempt to cause chaos?
Probably both. A desperate move. But it forces Kirk's hand. No more waiting, no more feeling his way. He goes straight to Karidian. It's time for the final showdown.
The confrontation we've been building towards.
20 years in the making. Kirk walks in. No more subtlety. Just ask him, point blank, are you Kodos?
And Karidian, does he finally break?
He deflects, masterfully, chillingly. He says, do you believe that I am? Then I am Kodos, if it pleases you to believe so. I'm an actor. I play many parts. Using his acting as the ultimate shield.
That's infuriating. He won't give a straight answer.
No, but Kirk pushes harder. He has Karidian read Kodos' original execution order from Tarsus V into a communicator, ostensibly for a voice print comparison.
The actual words Kodos used to condemn thousands.
The very words. And as Karidian reads them, Kirk observes him closely. He notes, grimly, Karidian read it like you knew them. You hardly glanced at the paper.
The mask slips. He knows the words by heart.
It seems so. The performance falters. And Karidian's response after reading isn't denial, it's justification.
Justification for mass murder.
It's chilling. He argues that some had to die that others might live. The old ends justify the means defense. He even suggests Kodos might have been seen as a hero if the relief ships hadn't arrived early.
That's unbelievably arrogant and cold, blaming the rescuers for ruining his plan.
And then he turns it on Kirk, attacks him, calls Kirk the perfect symbol of our technical society, mechanized, electronicized, and not very human, accuses Kirk of having done away with humanity.
Oh, projecting much. The mass murderer is accusing Kirk of being inhuman.
The irony is staggering. And then he challenges Kirk. Why not kill me now? Let bloody vengeance take its final course. Almost daring Kirk to become the executioner. It's a twisted psychological defense from a man cornered.
It really makes you think about how people rationalize the absolute worst actions. But this intense scene gets interrupted, right?
Right when Kirk is pressing him, Lenore arrives, and she is furious, not at her father, but at Kirk.
Why? For exposing him.
Exactly, she latches out. There's a stain of cruelty on your shining armor, Captain. You could have spared him, and me. Then she asks bitterly, you talked of using tools. I was a tool, wasn't I? A tool to use against my father.
Oof, that hits Kirk where it hurts, because maybe initially she was a tool for him.
Kirk kind of admits it. In the beginning, perhaps, but later. I wanted it to be more than that. It shows his own conflicted feelings, but Lenore's words just drip with this sense of betrayal and this incredibly twisted loyalty to her father. You see the weight of the secret she's been carrying.
This family is so damaged, and it all comes to a head during the play.
The performance of Hamlet, of all things. Revenge, madness, corrupted royalty. The parallels are almost too perfect. It's the perfect backdrop for the final act.
And while Hamlet is happening on stage, Lieutenant Riley makes his move.
Yes, he's supposed to be in sickbay, recovering from the poisoning. But he overhears McCoy's log. He hears that Karidian is suspected of being Kodos, the man who murdered his family on Tarsus IV.
That's got to trigger something terrible in him.
Pure, raw vengeance. He breaks out of sickbay, somehow gets into the weapons locker, grabs a phaser, and heads straight to the theater. He's going to kill Karidian.
Kirk must realize the danger.
Immediately, he issues a security 2 alert. Find Riley, restrain him. He knows this could end in disaster right there on his bridge in front of the crew.
So chaos erupts. Riley heading for the stage, security trying to stop him. What happens backstage?
Backstage is where the final, awful truth comes out. Lenore confesses to her father. She tells him she has been killing the other eyewitnesses, all 7 of them.
She was the killer all along.
Yes, to protect him. They had to be silenced. All of them, all 7. More blood on my hands, she says. Her voice is apparently just broken. She did it all for him.
Karidian must be horrified, realizing his daughter became a monster to protect him, the original monster.
The horror is absolute. He sees the terrible price of his survival paid by his own daughter's sanity and soul. And then, on stage, Riley bursts in, phasers aimed at Karidian. Lenore reacts instantly, raising her own phaser to shoot Riley, and maybe Kirk too, who's trying to intervene.
Oh no.
But in that split second, Karidian does the last thing anyone would expect. He steps into the path of Lenore's phaser beam.
He takes the shot for Kirk and Riley.
He does. Kodos the Executioner sacrifices himself to save an eyewitness and the Starfleet captain hunting him. As he dies, he apparently whispers something about the play catching the conscience of the king. A final, tragic, theatrical gesture.
Wow. Kodos Karidian dies. Lenore is stopped. What's the immediate fallout?
It's grim. Lenore survives, but McCoy reports her mind is just gone. She remembers nothing. She even thinks her father's still alive, giving performances before cheering crowds.
A complete mental break. Trapped in a fantasy to escape the horror. That's heartbreaking.
It is. And you see the toll on Kirk. McCoy sees it too. He gently asks Kirk, watching him grieve silently. You really cared for her, didn't you?
And Kirk.
Doesn't answer directly, just gives the quiet order to the helm. Ahead, warp factor 1. A silent acknowledgement of his pain, his loss. The case is closed. Kodos is dead, but the victory feels incredibly hollow.
What a story. It just leaves you thinking about so many things. This deep dive really pulled out some heavy themes.
Absolutely, like memory and identity. How fragile is memory after 20 years, especially traumatic memory, and how Karidian the actor almost completely overwrote Kodos the monster, but not quite. That performance, that assumed identity, it blurred everything.
And the justice versus vengeance question is huge here. Kirk wrestling with it, wanting justice but fearing his own desire for revenge. And Lenore, Her idea of justice, of protection, became pure vengeance, pure murder. Love twisted into something horrific.
Then there's the nature of humanity itself. Karidian's chilling rationalization, some had to die, versus Kirk's struggle, his ultimate commitment to due process, even with someone like Kodos. Despite Kirk's own ruthlessness at times, there's a fundamental difference.
And you see the weight of command. Kirk literally risked everything, his ship, his career, the lives of his crew, for this deeply personal mission that started with a hunch and a ghost from his past. The moral tightrope leaders walk.
It's just packed with these timeless questions about who we are, what shapes us, and the choices we make under pressure.
Definitely more than just a space adventure. It's a profound look at the scars history leaves and the price of uncovering buried truths.
For sure. And, Karidian's enduring words, echoing Hamlet, "The play is the thing. It will catch the conscience of the king." It implies that truth ultimately outs. No matter the disguise, no matter the performance, conscience, or consequences, will eventually catch up.
Which leaves us with something to chew on, doesn't it?
I think so. It makes you wonder, right? In our own lives, how often do we maybe sidestep uncomfortable truths about our past, about people we know, maybe even about ourselves? We build these narratives, these performances to cope.
And what's the hidden cost of doing that? What price do we pay for avoiding those confrontations, for keeping the play going?
Exactly. And on the flip side, what's the real cost of absolute, unblinking justice or truth-telling? Especially when digging it up means reopening old wounds, maybe destroying lives or illusions that, however false, were keeping someone afloat. It's not always simple, is it? Lots to think about long after the credits roll in this one.